All right, guys, thank y'all for joining me today on Instinctive Addiction Archery. Super windy out here today, so hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio okay. We're doing the best we can to keep the wind interruption down. But anyway, all right, so what I want to do today is bring you a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time to really help. I've had so many guys ask me these questions, and I really want to address this today. I want to deal with what we call split vision shooting. That's right, split vision shooting. Now, if you're an instinctive shooter, and let's just say you shoot 3 fingers under, what you might be doing and not even really realize it or think about it, which is, it's great, guys, but what you might be doing is you might be actually shooting split vision. And there are tons of guys that actually shoot this method, and I wanted to explain this because I've had a lot of guys ask me, say, what does split vision really mean? Explain this to me and how it works. Okay, so to start with, when you're shooting instinctive, the first thing you do is you line up with your target, and then you pick the spot. Okay, whether it's a 3D animal, whether it's a live deer, whatever the case may be, you pick your spot. Okay, your eyes have to focus on that little spot that you want to shoot. You cannot hit something that you don't aim at, right? That's it. The old saying, aim small, miss small, goes a million miles, guys. It's absolutely true. The tinier that your eyes are able to, tinier the spot that your eyes are able to focus on, especially at like 20 yards, the more accurate you're going to be. And what happens, just like I was asked a question last week by a dear friend, he's like, Jeff, why is it that I can shoot really, really tight groups at 10 and 15 yards, but when I get to 20 and 25, my groups just spread out? And an instinctive shooter. And my answer to that was, well, you lose focus because you begin to shoot it at a body. You begin to lose focus at that tiny little spot that you could see up close. It just naturally happens. Our eyes are not capable at 20 yards of seeing the little minute, at least mine are not, of seeing what I can see at very close distance in great detail. To really, really just look at and not take my eye off of it, draw, come to anchor, and shoot it. Okay, it's just that simple. So, shooting split vision is a great aid in that. When we're dealing with, say, 20, 25, 30-yard shots and beyond. Beyond that, split vision is a real great method. And to explain it to you, what does split vision shooting really mean? Well, I'm going to do my best to go through this process and explain what's going on in your sight picture when you're about to take the shot and how that split vision actually comes into play. Now, granted, it does not come into play seemingly, or at least you never notice it, you never think about it, it just doesn't exist out of a tree stand. It doesn't. If you're up in the stand, just like, say you're up in that ladder stand up there, guys. A 20-foot stand, and a deer walks by, and you look at the spot, and you draw it and shoot it, you never whatsoever reference your arrow if you're an instinctive shooter. You just don't look at it. It doesn't come into play at all. But on the ground, if you're shooting on the ground, and especially 3D, and you want to be really, really accurate, shooting a little bit longer distances, acknowledging the split vision aspect really helps your accuracy big time. Okay, I'm going to explain how this comes into play. All right, so you take any setup, doesn't matter what. Take a setup. When you take your shot, when you draw, and you come into anchor, when you do that, if you're shooting split vision, you always have a peripheral knowledge of where your arrow shaft is at full draw. Whether you admit it or don't, whether you think about it or don't, it's there. You have a thing called peripheral vision that tells you where something's at, even though you're not looking at it, you're looking at something else. Your peripheral vision, you see where it's located. Just like if I draw on this target and I come into full draw, I'm looking at that little spot on that target, but yet in my peripheral, I can see where my arrow is actually at, though I'm not looking at it and using it for an aiming device. But if you shoot both eyes open, like I do, you can't help but notice at full draw when that shaft is perfectly in line with that spot right and left. And even in elevation, when you learn your equipment, you learn your bows, you learn how to shoot, you can use that, not in a gapping form, but just as an aid in a longer shot for elevation. Because when you're looking at your spot, you naturally can see how far that arrow is up or not. And you know the trajectory of that arrow out of your bow. You can use that, and it's very effective. I shoot so much that I don't think about it at all. I really never take my focus off the spot, and my body adjusts to what it needs to do. But let's just say you haven't shot thousands and thousands of rounds. Maybe you're just starting out and you want to shoot instinctive. You don't want to gap shoot. You want to shoot instinctive, but you want to have a little something that helps you to be a little more accurate. I would highly recommend split vision. I really would. You say, well, okay, Jeff, how do I do split vision? How do I use it? It's there all the time, guys. Whether you choose to use it or not, it's there. All right, you may not even recognize it, but it's there. Just like when you draw your bow and you're at anchor, you're looking at the spot. And if you were to really look at your arrow, just like a gap shooter, you would notice that your insert, or your point, if you will, is about yay far down below that spot. If you were to do that, that's why gap shooters use that, okay? And it's very effective. But split vision shooting is a blend. It is a blend of looking at your spot, yet at least acknowledging the right and left of the shaft. Once you're into your back tension and you're into your anchor, whether you hold long or whether you don't hold long, you still can see it. Because the way that string comes in on any normal draw, the way that string comes in, you've got that arrow right there, right down the center between your eyes. It's lined up with your target, and you cannot help but know where it's at. You can't ignore it. You can try, but it's there, okay? So why not use it, especially on the ground at slightly longer distance shots, okay? So in other words, if I'm looking at that spot and I go to draw, I'm looking at that spot, and if I did look at my arrow, I'd be like, well, my arrow is gonna hit a foot low. If I looked at that arrow, it would look like it was gonna hit a foot low, though it won't, but it would sure look like it. So learning to shoot split vision is way more right and left than it is in the trajectory. It's way more of a tool to help you get that shaft in line right and left on your shot, which is okay because you're still not using the tip, you're still not aiming with it, you're looking at the spot, but when you're glued into the spot, you can draw and you can know when you've got your bow arm lined up, when everything is in line. That is really the essence of split vision shooting. The reason it's called split vision is because you have vision of two things, a primary and a secondary. Primary is focusing on the spot. Secondary is the peripheral that notices the position of that shaft at full draw, okay? That is split vision shooting. Lots of guys that shoot split vision, they're incredibly accurate, guys. It's a developed process that's always been there, and it's there every time you shoot. It's just whether you choose to use it or not use it, okay? When you shoot enough, you really won't. But let's just say starting out or shooting long distance shots, yes, absolutely. You're gonna find it to be very effective. And it doesn't matter which bow you shoot. Like I've got 3 bows here with me today: the longbow, the self bow, and the recurve. I shoot all 3 bows identical, shoot them the same way. I anchor, I draw, I release, I shoot them the exact same way. And I can use this on any of those bows. It makes no difference. But guys, like, to explain it best, if I was at a 3D course or whatever, and that was a target that I wanted to shoot, my main thing is to look at where I want that arrow to hit. That's the first thing. Study it, look at where you want that arrow to go. Then as you start your draw process and you come into anchor, you never take your eyes off that spot. You never ever take them off. But yet you allow your peripheral vision, once you hit anchor, to know that you are lined up right and left. You just do. And it's a split fraction of a second, guys. And it would especially be with me because I don't hold. So it's not like I hold all day and sit there and line up and aim with my shaft and all that stuff, which is much easier when the arrow is anchored closer to the eye. And I don't anchor very close to my eye. But the further that you get, the closer you get to your eye, the easier that even that would be. Like the guys that actually aim down the shaft. And there's lots of shooters that do that. Very accurate. If you'll ever notice, when guys shoot a fixed crawl, they have a fixed crawl on their string, and 99% of the time it's with a tab. Sometimes they have a mark, sometimes they mark their string, but they'll have a fixed crawl that will allow them to anchor at a certain position below the nock, which when they draw, will in essence put that arrow right at their eye. See how close that is to my eye? I'm looking right down that shaft. I mean, literally, I am looking right down that shaft. And all they do is they line it up. They use that to line it up right and left and up and down as an aiming device for right where they want it to go. And it's extremely accurate. However, it makes your bow loud. You lose energy. And it's just not for me. It's way more of a target deal. But a lot of guys do hunt like that. They do. And I'm not knocking it. It's just not for me. I choose to strictly look at what I want to shoot and shoot it. But to say, okay, Jeff, do you use split vision? Of course I use split vision on the ground. Out of a tree, no, I don't. On the ground, I do. At short distances, I do not. There's no need. But if I'm 30 yards and out, yes, I will subconsciously pay attention to the position of not only my arrow, but my bow hand and everything. And I just know where to put it to hit where I want to hit from practice, guys. It's just from practice. And that's something you will have to work on and learn on your own, by yourself, with your bow, your arrows, tuned perfect, your own setup. That's what you'll have to do. So you go to switching bows, switching arrow weights, trajectory change, all that's going to change. But once you learn your equipment, you can be very effective time after time after time with that particular bow. But you can easily adapt to any of them. But guys, what I do is typically, I'll just look at the spot that I want to shoot, and I don't think about really anything except that spot. That is the only thought in my mind, is that spot. Bam, just like that. And I don't hold long. There's no need. I can, but I choose not to, because once I hit my anchor and I pull through my shot, it's just done for me. My shot process is more of a lineup process than anything. If you'll notice, guys, I always get my bow up and I get in line before I draw, and I've pretty much got my shot made by the time I hit anchor. It's pretty much done already. Just my style, not everybody's, for sure. That was about an inch low. It's very easy to drop your arm on a shot too if you're not really paying attention to your mechanics. Bingo, then dead end. It's all focus. You just can't lose your focus with any bow. I don't care what kind you're shooting. You have to draw, make yourself come into anchor. I think more shots are blown with not getting into anchor and not really getting all of the energy out of your bow than anything. If you give up anything, you're going to lose trajectory. You're going to pull right and left. coming into that back tension, getting that elbow up is probably the very most important part of a shot process. It really is, guys. Bingo. So that's what I do. Now, you say, well, were you referencing your right and left at this distance? No, we're 15 yards. I never even remotely looked at my arrow or its position or anything at 15 yards. No, strictly the spot. But if I back up, let's say another 15 yards or 20 more yards, yes, because then I'm going to be elevating. I'm going to be elevating at those 30, 35, 40, 50-yard shots. I am elevating then, and I need to know what my trajectory is, and my right and left becomes really crucial at long distance, okay? That's where split vision comes in for me. And guys, that's how I'm able to shoot long distance shots accurate. And you know, I shoot long distance all the time. I love it. It's a hobby. I don't do it hunting, but I love practicing long distance shots. And the way that I'm able to hit long distance with recurves and longbows is that method, because at full draw, I'll typically hold a little bit longer, and I'll make sure that I've got my right and left, that I can see that shaft, and I can just tell when it's dead on with the spot. And my elevation, I learned through learning my equipment. So that's how I shoot these long shots, guys. It's always, you know, kind of been a mystery of, well, how do you just pick up a bow and more or less draw at 60 yards and snap shoot and hit anything? How can you possibly do that? That's basically it. You learn from your equipment, and you can pay attention to your peripheral slightly of the position of that arrow to help you with the right and left, and in some cases the elevation. So, but that's only on long distance shots. So with that being said, it really doesn't matter which bow you shoot. I'll shoot my self bow a time or two. Hadn't had a chance to shoot it today, and I absolutely love shooting my self bow, guys. It's probably the coolest thing in the world. They're very, very addictive. Same way. Stare at the spot. Just staring at the spot. Bam, right in there. And with these self bows, they stack a lot more than, they're still smooth, but they stack more than a high-end laminated bow. So I don't try to hold these all day long for sure. Bam, but she's in there. With wood arrows, most fun bow in the world to shoot, I promise you. Bam. I love them. I'm gonna shoot around with this thing. I could shoot this thing all day long and never get tired of it. Bam. And these wood arrows, tip for guys that are shooting wood arrows. I'm just now getting into woodies, and no matter how much money you spend on them, they're not gonna stay straight. You got to keep these things straightened. And I mean day to day. Weather changes, how you hang them, where you lay them, they just get bent. They just get crooked, and they will not shoot perfect. You'll have one or two that'll shoot perfect out of a half a dozen. It's just the way it is. But they're a maintenance item, but that's what makes them fun. Shooting wood arrows, that's just part of the traditional journey with them. You got to keep them straight. So you're not always going to have an arrow that's going to shoot right where you're looking, because it's going to do its own thing sometimes. That's just wood arrows for you. Bam. Love that thing, man. It's so cool. Then, of course, my sweetheart, the heartbreaker, my recurve. This is the deer killing machine. This is what I hunted with all year long, and it was very good to me. Very good to me. This is my 51 at 28 recurve. I draw 49 pounds with it, and I absolutely love shooting it. And I'll show you guys a trick that I've done with this bow. A trick. Because there are things you can do to a bow to make them tune for your shooting style. When I built this bow to shoot split finger. Okay? Tillered an 1/8 inch positive. This bow was tillered for me shooting split finger. Well, I got back into shooting 3 under, so the bow shot fine, but not quite as good as I wanted it to. So I found a trick, guys. If you'll notice, when you're shooting split finger, your anchor point is up higher on the string. You're anchoring up higher on the string. You're gripping higher. okay? So, all I did to compensate for this bow that was built for a split finger shooting tiller to 1/8 inch positive is I put a slight little ramp. I haven't even painted this, but see guys, I got this little tiny, what this is the barrel of a 204 inside diameter arrow nock that I cut off and put under my silencing material and went up with my nock point just a hair, which allowed these limbs to work dead even. In other words, they're working just the same, perfectly together. This bow is tuned now. So it shoots amazing 3 under just by doing that little trick. So you can play with that kind of stuff with a bow and make them do whatever you want them to do. That's it. Man, one's in there. This bow just don't miss. I'm just telling you guys now. You get you a good recurve. This is a 58 inch that you really like. Some bows you just shoot well, and that's why I have so much confidence in the bow for hunting. I really do. Bam, right in there. See guys, I don't hold. I could, but I don't. Because once I'm locked in and I hit my anchor, it's over. It's going where I want it to go. So, you know, you may do better holding. You may. But you have to find that point to where when is long enough. Because what I experimented with when I said, okay, I'm going to start holding a minimum 5-6 seconds. Minimum. And I easily can do it with any bow I've got. It doesn't matter what bow it is. I can come into anchor and I can hold the thing as long as I need to hold it. I mean, holding the bow is not a problem at all, okay? But what I found that I start doing is I start moving at full draw. I want to tend to start moving around and losing that lock-in that I have when I try to hold too long. So knock it if you want to. Call me a snap shooter if you want to. I really don't care because I hit what I'm looking at, and that's all that matters. But if it does you better, and if your pounds are manageable, and you can hold at least maybe 2 or 3 seconds to really lock in and develop that rock solid process, yes, you need to do that. You do. So don't just take it from me and say, well, hey, Jeff snap shoots, so I'm gonna snap shoot. Don't do that. Do what works for you. But if holding that bow causes you to make mistakes, then quit it. Quit trying to hold it and do a bunch of aiming, because you'll lose your focus altogether. And sometimes with a little bit too much bow weight, you'll start to fatigue or move or something. You'll find it so hard to stay dead locked on that target. Because with me, the only way that I can really do that is a light pound bow. Now, if I grab a 40-pound bow, yeah, I can walk up to a stake and I can draw it and I can just sit there as long as I want to hold the thing. But I have a problem even with light pound bows getting a really crisp release once I've held them for a while. So I feel like there's a point to where you need to just do what's natural, because the trick is you don't want to have to think about it. You want that string to roll off your fingers and the shot be done without you even knowing it. Once your mental clicker says, I'm there, boom, just let it happen. Let it roll off and let the shot happen. If you try to hold a bow and have a trigger in your head that says, okay, release, I think you're gonna make mistakes. I think you're gonna start plucking the string. You're just gonna develop some bad habits and target panic. Target panic will eat you up, man. It's terrible, terrible thing. So you don't want that. So anyway, guys, my advice is get out there, play with this split vision, at least kind of look at your spot and more or less kind of notice in your subconscious the position of your arrow right and left. Just try to notice it and see if it's lined up right and left. I mean, you can almost draw back while you're looking at your spot, and you can just barely glance at your arrow, and you can tell where it's at. But don't pay attention to it, because that's going to throw you completely off. But split vision shooting is a very effective tool, and that is the best I can explain it. Like I said, it's a primary and a secondary. Primary is focusing on the spot. The secondary is your peripheral vision, noticing where your arrow's at and using that, okay? That's what split vision shooting is, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this. thank you so very much for joining us today on Instinctive Addiction Archery. I love you guys so much. Just hope that this has been helpful. Pray that everything that we say and do will bring honor and glory to the good Lord that gives us all things to enjoy. And if you guys have any questions, make sure you shoot me your questions and comments. I'll be glad to answer them as quick as I can get to it. And hope you guys have a wonderful week. God bless you.